Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarne Jai Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayati Janani Vaso Devaki Janmavado Yaruvara Parishat Swardor Virasyana Dharmam Stirachara Vijinana Susmita Shri Mukhena Rajapura Vanitanam Varyankamadevam. We're taking up our reading of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're experimenting with our schedule this morning. We may slightly adjust it tomorrow, but we're keeping on a tight schedule because we're trying to take advantage of every moment we have here at Govardhana Hill. Does anybody know if this is a little bit high, that if they're starting to offer lamps tonight in Vrindavan? Or is it tomorrow? Mayapur's today.
Because I don't know Jab Tak Maharaj saying that either you observe from Ekadashi to Ekadashi,
yeah,
or from Purnima to Purnima.
Okay. Okay. We're at Madhya Lila, chapter 9, Lord Chaitanya's travels to the holy places. And we're taking up at text number 280. After seeing Panchapsara, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Gokarna. While there he visited the temple of Lord Shiva, and then he went to Dvaipayani. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the crown jewel of all sannyasis, then went to Suparaka Tirtha. Purport: Gokarna is situated in North Kannada, in the Carnatic state. It still feels a little loud to me. It is about 33 miles southeast of Karwar. This place is very famous for the temple of Lord Shiva, known as Mahabaleshwara. Hundreds and thousands of pilgrims come to see this temple. Suparaka is about 26 miles north of Bombay. In the Maharashtra province near Bombay is a district known as Thana, and a place known as Surparaka is mentioned in the Mahabharata, Shanti Parva, chapter 41, verses 66 and 67. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then visited the town of Kolhapur, where he saw the goddess of fortune in the temple of Shir Bhagavati, and saw Langa Ganesh in another temple known as Chor Parvati. Purport: Kolhapur is a town in the Maharashtra province, formerly known as Bombay Pradesh. Formerly, Kolhapur was a native state, and it is bordered on the north by the district of Shantara, on the east and south by the district of Belagaum, and on the west by the district of Ratnagiri. In Kolhapur, there is a river named Urna. From the Bombay Gazette, it is understood that there were about 250 temples there, out of which 6 are very famous. These are 1, Ambabai, or Mahalakshmi Mandir; 2, Vithoba Mandir; 3, Temblai Mandir; 4, Mahakali Mandir; 5, Pirangai or Pratyangira Mandir; and 6, Yalama Mandir. From there, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Pandharpur, where he happily saw the temple of Vital Thakur. The city of Pandharpur is situated on the river Bhima. It is said that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu initiated Tukaram when he visited Pandharpur, and thus Tukaram became his disciple. Tukaram Acharya became very famous in the Maharashtra province, and he spread the Sankirtan movement all over the province. The Sankirtan party, belonging to Tukaram, is still very popular in Bombay and throughout the province of Maharashtra. Tukaram's book is known as Abhanga. His Sankirtan party exactly resembles the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sankirtan parties, for they chant the holy name of the Lord with Madanga and Kartalas. The Lord Vitaladev, mentioned in this verse, is a form of Lord Vishnu with two hands. He is Narayan. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu chanted and danced in various ways as usual. A Brahmana, seeing him in ecstatic love, was very pleased and invited the Lord to his home for lunch. The Brahmana offered Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu food with great respect and love. After finishing his lunch, the Lord received auspicious news. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu received word that Sri Rangapuri, one of the disciples of Sri Madhavendra Puri, was present in that village at the home of a Brahmana. Hearing this news, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu immediately went to see Sri Rangapuri at the Brahmana's home. Upon entering, the Lord saw him sitting there. As soon as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu saw Sri Rangapuri, he immediately offered him obeisances in ecstatic love, falling flat on the ground. The symptoms of transcendental transformation were visible, namely tears, jubilation, trembling, and perspiration. Upon seeing Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu in such an ecstatic mood, Sri Rangapuri said, "Your Holiness, please get up." Your Holiness is certainly related to Sri Madhavendra Puri, without whom there is no fragrance of ecstatic love. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarks that up to the advent of His Holiness Sripad Lakshmipati Tirtha, it was the system in the disciplic succession of Madhvacharya to worship Lord Krishna alone. After Srila Madhavendra Puri, worship of both Radha and Krishna was established. For this reason, Sri Madhavendra Puri is accepted as the root of worship in ecstatic love. Unless one is connected to the disciplic succession of Madhavendra Puri, there is no possibility of awakening the symptoms of ecstatic love. The word Gosai is significant in this connection. The spiritual master who is fully surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and has no business other than the Lord's service is called the best of the Paramahamsas. A Paramahamsa has no program for sense gratification. He is interested only in satisfying the senses of the Lord. One who has control of the senses in this way is called a Gosai or Goswami, master of the senses. The senses cannot be controlled unless one is engaged in the service of the Lord. Therefore, the bona fide spiritual master who has full control over his senses engages 24 hours a day in the Lord's service. He can therefore be addressed as Gosai or Goswami. The title Goswami cannot be inherited, but can be given only to a bona fide spiritual master. There were 6 great Goswamis of Vrindavan: Srila Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shijiv Gopal Bhatta, and Das Raghunath. And none of them inherited the title of Goswami. All the Goswamis of Vrindavan were bona fide spiritual masters situated on the highest platform of devotional service. And for that reason they were called Goswamis. All the temples of Vrindavan were certainly started by the 6 Goswamis. Later, the worship in the temples was entrusted to some householder disciples of the Goswamis, and since then the hereditary title of Goswami has been used. However, only one who is a bona fide spiritual master expanding the cult of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the Krishna consciousness movement, and who is in full control of his senses can be addressed as a Goswami. Unfortunately, the hereditary process is going on. Therefore, at the present moment, in most cases, the title is being misused due to ignorance of the word's etymology. Text 290. After saying this, Sri Rangapuri lifted Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu up and embraced him. As they embraced shoulder to shoulder, they both began to cry in ecstasy. After some moments, they came to their senses and became patient. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu then informed Sri Rangapuri about his relationship with Ishwarapuri. They were both inundated by the wonderful ecstasy of love that was aroused in them. Finally, they sat down and respectfully began to converse. In this way, they discussed topics about Lord Krishna continually for 5 to 7 days. Out of curiosity, Sri Rangapuri asked Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu about his birthplace, and the Lord informed him that it was Navadvip Dham. Sri Rangapuri had formerly gone to Navadvip with Sri Madhavendra Puri, and he therefore remembered the incidents that had taken place there. As soon as Sri Rangapuri recalled Navadvip, he also recalled accompanying Sri Madhavendra Puri to the house of Jagannath Mishra. When Sri Rangapuri had taken lunch, he even remembered the taste of an unprecedented curry made of banana flowers. Sri Rangapuri also remembered the wife of Jagannath Mishra. She was very devoted and chaste. As for her affection, she was exactly like the mother of the universe. He also remembered how Sri Jagannath Mishra's wife, Shachi Mata, was expert in cooking. He recalled that she was very affectionate toward the sannyasis and fed them exactly like her own sons. Sri Rangapuri also remembered that one of her deserving sons had accepted the renounced order at a very young age. His name was Shankararanya. Sri Rangapuri informed Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu that the sannyasi named Shankararanya had attained perfection in that holy place, Pandharpur. Purport: Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's elder brother was named Vishwarup. He left home before Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and accepted the sannyas order under the name Shankararanya Swami. He traveled all over the country and finally went to Pandharpur, where he passed away after attaining perfection. In other words, he entered the spiritual world after giving up his mortal body at Pandharpur. Sri Rangapuri, a disciple of Sri Madhavendra Puri and godbrother of Ishwarapuri, disclosed this important news to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu said, in my previous ashrama, Shankararanya was my brother and Jagannath Mishra was my father. After finishing his talks with Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Rangapuri started for Dwarka Dham. After Sri Rangapuri departed for Dwarka, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu remained with the Brahmana at Pandharpur for 4 more days. He took his bath in the Bhima river and visited the temple of Vitala. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu next went to the bank of the Krishna Vainva river, where he visited many holy places at the temples of various gods. Purport: this river is a branch of the river Krishna. It is said that Thakur Bilvamangal resided on the banks of this river, which is also called the Vina or Vaini, the Sina, and the Bhima. The Brahmana community there was composed of pure devotees. They regularly studied a book called Krishna Karnamrita, which was composed by Bilvamangal Thakur. Purport: this book was composed by Bilvamangal Thakur in 112 verses. There are 2 or 3 other books bearing the same name. And there are also 2 commentaries on Bilvamangal Thakur's book. One commentary was written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and the other by Chaitanya Das Goswami. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased to hear the book Krishna Karnamrita, and with great eagerness he had it copied and took it with him. There is no comparison to the Krishna Karnamrita within the 3 worlds. By studying this book, one is elevated to the knowledge of pure devotional service to Krishna. One who constantly reads the Krishna Karnamrita can fully understand the beauty and melodious taste of the pastime of Lord Krishna. The Brahma Samhita and Krishna Karnamrita were two books that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu considered to be most valuable jewels. Therefore, he took them with him on his return trip. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu next arrived at the banks of the river Tapi. After bathing there, he went to Mahishmatipura. While there, he saw many holy places on the banks of the river Narmada. Purport: the river Tapi is also known as Tapti. The river's source is a mountain called Multai, and the river flows westward through the state of Saurashtra and into the Arabian Sea. Mahishmatipura Maheshwar is mentioned in the Mahabharata in connection with Sahadev's victory. Sahadev, the youngest brother of the Pandavas, conquered that part of the country. As stated in Mahabharata, quote, after acquiring jewels, Sahadev went to the city of Mahishmati, where he fought with a king called Nila. The Lord next arrived at Danus Tirtha, where he took his bath in the river near Vindhya. He then arrived at Rishyamukha mountain and then went to Dandakaranya. Purport: according to some opinions, Rishyamukha is a chain of mountains beginning at the village of Hampi Gram in the district of Bellary. The mountain chain begins along the bank of the river Tungabhadra, which gradually reaches the state of Hyderabad. According to other opinions, this hill is situated in Madhya Pradesh and bears the present name of Rampa. Dandakaranya is a spacious tract of land which begins north of Khandesh and extends up to the southern Ahmednagara through Nasik and Aurangabad. The Godavari River flows through this tract of land, and there is a great forest there where Lord Ramachandra lived. Within the Dandakaranya forest, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu then visited a place called Saptatal. The 7 palm trees there were very old, very bulky, and very high. The name Saptapal is mentioned in the Kishkinda section of the Ramayana and is described in the 11th and 12th chapters of that section. Upon seeing the 7 palm trees, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu embraced them. As a result, they all returned to Vaikuntha Loka, the spiritual world. After the 7 palm trees had departed for Vaikuntha, everyone was astonished to see that they were gone. The people then began to say, this sannyasi called Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu must be an incarnation of Lord Ramachandra. Only Lord Ramachandra has the power to send 7 palm trees to the spiritual Vaikuntha planets. Eventually, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at a lake known as Pampa, where he took his bath. He then went to a place called Panchavati, where he rested. Purport: according to some, the old name of Tungabhadra River was Pamba. According to others, Vijayanagar, the capital of the state, was known as Pampatirtha. According to still others, the lake near Anagundi in the direction of Hyderabad is Pampa Sarovara. The river Tungabhadra also flows through there. There are many different opinions about the lake called Pampa Sarovara. Do we still have that lamp? Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu then visited Nasik, where he saw the deity of Trayambaka, Lord Shiva. He then went to Brahmagiri and then to Kushavarta, the source of the river Godavari. Purport: Kushavarta is located in the Western Ghat at Satyadri. It is near Nasika, a holy place, but according to some, it was situated in the valley of Vindhya. After visiting many other holy places, the Lord went to Saptagodavari. At last he returned to Vidyanagara. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveled from the source of the Godavari River and eventually visited the northern side of Hyderabad state. He finally arrived at the state of Kalinga. When Ramananda Roy heard that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had arrived, he was very pleased, and he immediately went to see him. When Ramananda Roy fell flat, touching the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord immediately raised him to his feet and embraced him. In great ecstatic love, they both began to cry, and thus their minds were slackened. At some time, they regained their senses and sat together to discuss various subjects. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave Ramananda Roy a vivid description of his travels to the holy places and told him how he had acquired the two books named Krishna Karnamrita and Brahma Samhita. The Lord delivered the books to Ramananda Roy. The Lord said, "Whatever you have told me about devotional service is all supported by these two books." Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, two people heard it.
Yes.
Yeah? I'm going to read it again. It's really important. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave Ramananda Roy a vivid description of his travels to the holy places and told him how he had... It's a science of how everything works here. One of them doesn't go on because we're on auxiliary power, if you know what I'm saying. Just so you know, there's two systems here. They have auxiliary and main. When the main's on, then everything works. When auxiliary's on, only that light and only that fan works. So when you feel the electricity come on, it's from auxiliary power, and you'll know that only that and that works. And I wish we were reversed so you could have the fan. I feel bad about that, but this is how it was designed. Okay? This is it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave Ramananda Roy a vivid description of his travels to the holy places and told him how he had acquired the two books named Krishna Karnamrita and Brahma Samhita. The Lord delivered the books to Ramananda Roy. The Lord said, "Whatever you have told me about devotional service is supported by these two books." That's fairly significant, don't you think? Because he told him a lot. Ramananda Roy was very happy to receive these books. He tasted their contents along with the Lord and made a copy of each. News spread in the village of Vidyanagara about the arrival of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and everyone came to see him once again. After seeing people gathered there, Sri Ramananda Roy returned to his own home. At noon, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got up to take his lunch. Sri Ramananda Roy returned at night, and he and the Lord discussed topics concerning Krishna. Thus they passed the night. Ramananda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discussed Krishna day and night, and thus they passed from 5 to 7 days in great happiness. Ramananda Roy said, "My dear Lord, with your permission, I have already written a letter to the king with great humility. The king has already given me an order to return to Jagannath Puri, and I am making arrangements to do this." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, "It is for this purpose alone that I have returned. I want to take you with me to Jagannath Puri." Ramananda Roy said, "My dear Lord, it is better that you proceed to Jagannath Puri alone, because with me there will be many horses, elephants, and soldiers, all roaring tumultuously. I shall make arrangements within 10 days. Following you, I shall go to Nilachala without delay." Giving orders to Ramananda Roy to come to Nilachala, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu departed for Jagannath Puri with great pleasure. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned by the same road he had formerly taken to Vidyanagara, and all the Vaishnavas along the way saw him again. Wherever Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu went, the holy name of Sri Hari was vibrated. Seeing this, the Lord became very happy. When the Lord reached Alalanath, he sent his assistant Krishnadas ahead to call for Nityananda Prabhu and other personal associates. As soon as Nityananda received news of the arrival of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he immediately got up and started out to see him. Indeed, he was very impatient in his great ecstasy. Sri Nityananda Roy, Sri Nityananda Roy, Jagadananda, Damodar Pandit, and Mukunda all became ecstatic in their happiness, and dancing along the way, they went to see the Lord. Gopinathacharya also went in a very happy mood. They all went to meet the Lord, and they finally contacted him on the way. The Lord was also filled with ecstatic love, and he embraced them all. Out of their love, they began to cry with pleasure. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya also went to see the Lord with great pleasure, and he met him on the beach by the sea. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord, and the Lord pulled him up and embraced him. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya cried in great ecstatic love. Then the Lord, accompanied by them all, went to the temple of Jagannath. Due to ecstatic love experienced upon visiting Lord Jagannath, inundations of trembling, perspiration, tears, and jubilation swept the body of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. In ecstatic love, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu danced and chanted. At that time, all the attendants and priests came to offer him a garland and the remnants of Lord Jagannath's food. Purport: those who are priests engaged in Lord Jagannath's service are called pandas or panditas, and they are brahmanas. The attendants who look after the temple's external affairs are called palas. The priests and attendants went together to see Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu became patient after receiving the garland and prasadam of Lord Jagannath. All the servants of Lord Jagannath met Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu with great pleasure. Afterwards, Kashi Mishra came and fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord, and the Lord respectfully embraced him. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then took the Lord with him to his home, saying, "Today's luncheon will be at my home." In this way, he invited the Lord. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya brought various types of food remnants that had been left by Lord Jagannath. He brought all kinds of cakes and condensed milk preparations. Accompanied by all his associates, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu went to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house and took his noon lunch there. After offering food to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya made him lie down to rest, and he personally began to massage the legs of the Lord. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu then sent Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to take his lunch, and the Lord remained that night in his home just to please him. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal associates remained with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. They all stayed awake the entire night as the Lord spoke of his pilgrimage. The Lord told Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, "I have traveled to many holy places, but I could not find a Vaishnava as good as you anywhere." Oh. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu continued, "I received much pleasure from the talks of Ramananda Roy." The Bhattacharya replied, "For this reason I requested that you meet him." Purport: in the Sri Chaitanya Chandrodaya, beginning of the 8th act, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu says, "Sarvabhauma, I have traveled to many holy places, but I cannot find a Vaishnava as good as you anywhere. However, I must admit that Ramananda Roy is wonderful." Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replies, "Therefore, my Lord, I requested that you meet him." Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu then says, "There are, of course, many Vaishnavas, in these holy places, and most of them worship Lord Narayan. Others who are called Tattvavadis are also Lakshmi Narayan worshippers, but they do not belong to the pure Vaishnav cult. There are many worshippers of Lord Shiva, and there are also many atheists. Regardless, my dear Bhattacharya, I very much like Ramananda Roy and his opinions. Thus I have ended my narration about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pilgrimage. Describing it in brief, it cannot be described very broadly. Purport: Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out that in the 74th verse of this chapter it is stated that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Shiali Bhairavi. But actually at Shiali, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Sri Bhuvaraha. Near Shiali and Chidambaram there is a temple known as Sri Mushnam. In this temple there is a deity of Sri Bhuvaraha. In the jurisdiction of Chidambaram there is a district known as Southern Arcot. The town of Shiali is in that district. There is a temple of Sri Bhuvarahadev nearby, not by Ravi Devi. This is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's conclusion. In the 74th verse, this is very curious. Verse 74 says, 74. After visiting the temple of Shiali Bhairavi, a form of goddess Durga, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Mother Sachi, went to the bank of the river Kaveri. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is questioning the veracity of that verse by Kaviraj Goswami. Because apparently on further investigation, that's not where he visited. Is that what's happening? There is no temple by Ravi temple there. But I'd like to go to the Bhuvaraha temple. The pastimes of Lord Chaitanya are unlimited. No one can properly describe his activities, yet I make the attempt out of greed. This but reveals my shamelessness. Whoever hears of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pilgrimage to various holy places attains the riches of very deep ecstatic love. Hari Hari. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarks, the impersonalists imagine some forms of the absolute truth through the direct perception of their senses. The impersonalists worship such imaginary forms, but neither Srimad Bhagavatam nor Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepts this sense gratifying worship to be of any spiritual significance. The Mayavadis imagine themselves to be the Supreme. They imagine that the Supreme has no personal form and that all his forms are imaginary, like the will-o'-the-wisp or a flower in the sky. Both Mayavadis and those who imagine forms of God are misguided. According to them, worship of the deity or any other form of the Lord is a result of the conditioned soul's illusion. However, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam on the strength of his philosophy of Vachinta Bhed Abhed Tattva. That philosophy holds that the Supreme Lord is simultaneously one with and different from his creation. That is to say, there is unity and diversity. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu proved the impotence of fruitive workers, speculative empiric philosophers, and mystic yogis. The realization of such men is simply a waste of time and energy. That's nice to know. It's categorical. You can consider, unless somebody's a pure Vaishnav and a follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who has come to into the fold of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Bhaktivinoda Parivar, what business do we have? In this way, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu proved the impotence of fruitive workers, speculative, empiric philosophers, and mystic yogis. The realization of such men is simply a waste of time and energy. To set the example, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu personally visited temples in various holy places. Whenever he visited, he immediately exhibited his ecstatic love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When a Vaishnava visits the temple of a demigod, his vision of that demigod is different from the vision of the impersonalists and Mayavadis. The Brahma Samhita supports this. A Vaishnava's visit to the temple of Lord Shiva, for example, is different from a non-devotee's visit. The non-devotee considers the deity of Lord Shiva an imaginary form because he ultimately thinks that the Supreme Absolute Truth is void. However, Vaishnava sees Lord Shiva as being simultaneously one with and different from the Supreme Lord. In this regard, the example of milk and yogurt is given. Yogurt is actually nothing but milk, but at the same time it is not milk. It is simultaneously one with milk yet different from it. This is the philosophy of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's, and it is confirmed by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 9.4. Mayata tamidang sarvam jagadavyaktamurtina mastani sarvabhutani na chaham tesha vastita. By me and my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. The Absolute Truth, God, is everything, but this does not mean that everything is God. For this reason, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers visited the temples of all the demigods, but they did not see them in the same way an impersonalist sees them. Everyone should follow in the footsteps of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and visit all temples. Sometimes mundane sahajas suppose that the gopis visited the temple of Caitanya. In the same way, mundane people visit the temple of Devi. However, the gopis prayed to Caitanya to grant them Krishna as their husband, whereas mundaners visit the temple of Caitanya to receive some material profit. That is the difference between a Vaishnava's visit and a non-devotee's visit. Not understanding the process of disciplic succession, so-called logicians put forward the theory of Panchupasana, in which a person worships one of 5 deities, namely Vishnu, Shiva, Durga, the sun god, and Ganesh. In this conception, the impersonalists imagine one of these 5 deities as supreme and reject the others. Such philosophical speculation, which is certainly idol worship, is not accepted by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu or the Vaishnavas. This imaginary deity worship has recently been transformed into Mayavad impersonalism. For want of Krishna consciousness, people are victimized by the Mayavad philosophy, and consequently they sometimes become staunch atheists. However, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu established the process of self-realization by his own personal behavior. As stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Stavara Jangamadhaki Nadheki Tarmurti Sarvatra Hoy Nija Ishta Deva Spurti. A Vaishnava never sees the material form of anything, moving or non-moving. Rather, everywhere he looks, he sees the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And immediately he remembers the transcendental form of the Lord. Text 361. Please hear the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu with faith and devotion. Giving up envy of the Lord, everyone chant the Lord's name, Hari. Hari. In this age of Kali, there are no genuine religious principles other than those established by Vaishnava devotees and the Vaishnava scriptures. This is the sum and substance of everything. Purport: one must have firm faith in the process of devotional service and the scriptures that support it. If one hears the activities of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu with this faith, he can be freed from his envious position. Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for such non-envious persons, nirmatsaranam satam. In this age, a person should not envy Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, but should chant the holy name of Hari and Krishna, the Mahamantra. That is the sum and substance of the eternal religion known as Sanatana Dharma. In this verse, the word Vaishnava refers to a pure devotee and fully realized soul, and the word Vaishnava Shastra refers to Shruti, or the Vedas, which are called Shabda Pramana, the evidence of transcendental sound. One who strictly follows the Vedic literature and chants the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead will actually be situated in the transcendental disciplic succession. Those who want to attain life's ultimate goal must follow this principle. In Srimad Bhagavatam 11:19-17 it is said, Shruti pratyakshamaitiyam anumanam chatushtayam pramaneshvavanasthanad vikalpat savirajite. Vedic literature, direct perception, history, and hypothesis are the four kinds of evidential proofs. Everyone should stick to these principles for the realization of the absolute truth. The pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu are just like an unfathomable ocean. It is not possible for me to enter into it. Simply standing on the shore, I am but touching the water. The more one hears the pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu with faith, analytically studying them, the more one attains the ecstatic riches of love of Godhead. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Purport. As usual, the author concludes the chapter by reciting the names of Sri Rupa and Raghunath and reinstating himself at their lotus feet. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, 9th chapter, describing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's travels to many holy places in South India. Bravo! Jai, Jai! Sadhu, Sadhu! Beautiful, marvelous. Hari, Hari! Chapter 10, the Lord's Return to Jagannath Puri. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling in South India, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had many talks with King Prataparudra. When Maharaj Prataparudra requested the Bhattacharya to arrange an interview with the Lord, the Bhattacharya assured him that he would try to do so as soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned from South India. When the Lord returned to Jagannath Puri from his South Indian tour, he lived at the home of Kashi Mishra. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya introduced many Vaishnavas to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after his return. The father of Ramananda Roy, Bhavananda Roy, offered another son named Vaninath Patanyayaka for the Lord's service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed his associates about the pollution of Krishnadas brought about by his association with the Bhattaharis. And thus, the Lord proposed to give him leave. Nityananda Prabhu sent Krishnadas to Bengal to inform the Navadvip devotees about the Lord's return to Jagannath Puri. All the devotees of Navadvip thus began arranging to come to Jagannath Puri. At this time, Paramananda Puri was at Navadvip, and immediately upon hearing news of the Lord's return, he started for Jagannath Puri, accompanied by a Brahmana named Kamalakanta. Purushottam Bhattacharya, a resident of Navadvip, was educated at Varanasi. He accepted the renounced order from Chaitanya Nanda, but he took the name Swarup. Thus he arrived at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After the demise of Sri Ishvara Puri, his disciple Govinda, following his instructions, went to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Due to his relationship with Keshava Bharati, Brahmananda Bharati was also respectfully received by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. When he arrived at Jagannath Puri, he was advised to give up the deerskin clothing he wore. When Brahmananda understood Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu correctly, he accepted him as Krishna himself. However, when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya addressed Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna, the Lord immediately protested. In the meantime, Kashishvar Goswami also came to see Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. In this chapter, devotees from many different areas come to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they are exactly like many rivers that come from many places to finally flow into the sea. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is compared to a cloud that pours water on fields of grain, which are like devotees suffering due to the shortage of rain. Separation from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like a drought, but when the Lord returns, his presence is like the nectarine rain that falls on all the grains and saves them from perishing. All glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu departed for South India, King Prataparudra called Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to his palace. When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya met with the king offered him a seat with all respects and inquired about the news of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The king said to the Bhattacharya, "I have heard that a great personality has come from Bengal and is staying at your home. I have also heard that he is very, very merciful. I have also heard that this great personality has shown you great favor. At any rate, this is what I hear from many different people. Now, being merciful upon me, you should do me the favor of arranging an interview." The Bhattacharya replied, "All that you have heard is true, but as far as an interview is concerned, it is very difficult to arrange. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the renounced order and is very much detached from worldly affairs. He stays in solitary places, and even in dreams he does not grant interviews to a king. Still, I would have tried to arrange your interview, but he has recently left to tour South India." The king asked, "Why has he left Jagannath Puri?" The Bhattacharya replied, "Such are the pastimes of a great personality. Great saints go to holy places of pilgrimage to purify them. For that reason, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is visiting many tirthas and delivering many, many conditioned souls. Saints of your caliber are themselves places of pilgrimage. Because of their purity, they are constant companions of the Lord, and therefore they can purify even the places of pilgrimage." This is a verse spoken by Maharaj Yudhishthira to Vidura in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.13.10, and is also quoted in the Adi Lila 1.63. A Vaishnava travels to places of pilgrimage to purify them and reclaim fallen conditioned souls. This is one of the duties of a Vaishnava. Actually, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not a living entity, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Consequently, he is a fully independent controller, yet in his position as a devotee, he carries out the activities of a devotee. Purport: Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out that because there are many permanent residents in holy places who do not precisely follow the rules and regulations governing living in a sacred place, exalted devotees have to go to these places to reclaim such persons. This is the business of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is unhappy to see others materially enmeshed. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught these activities of a Vaishnava, although he is the worshipable deity of all Vaishnavas, the complete and independent Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto, completely uncontaminated and eternally liberated. He is Sanatan, for he has no beginning or end. Upon hearing this, the king replied, "Why did you allow him to leave? Why didn't you fall at his lotus feet and keep him here?" Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, "Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself and is completely independent. Being Lord Krishna himself, he is not dependent on anyone. Still, I endeavored very hard to keep him here, but because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and completely independent, I was not successful." The king said, "Bhattacharya, you are the most learned and experienced person I know. Therefore, when you address Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Lord Krishna, I accept this as the truth." Purport: this is the way to advance in spiritual science. One must accept the words of an acharya, a bona fide spiritual master, to clear the path for spiritual advancement. This is the secret of success. However, one's guide must be a spiritual master who is actually an unalloyed devotee, strictly following the instructions of the previous acharya without deviation. Whatever the spiritual master says must be accepted by the disciple. Only then is success certain. This is the Vedic system. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was a Brahmana and a realized soul, whereas Prataparuja was a Kshatriya. Kshatriya kings used to obey very faithfully the orders of learned Brahmanas and saintly persons, and in this way they would rule their country. Similarly, Vaishyas used to follow the king's orders, and Shudras used to serve the three higher castes. In this way, the Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudras used to live cooperatively, performing their respective duties. Consequently, society was peaceful, and people were able to discharge the duties of Krishna consciousness. Thus, they were happy in this life and able to return home back to Godhead. I'll take a couple of reflections or questions. Prabhu?
I was thinking about the Brahma Samhita.
Yes?
And how they found just one chapter and it was so important and valuable and they started to copy it. And then I thought about Bhaktivinoda Thakur, how he was hard-pressed to find a copy of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it made me think how important this book distribution is to preserve Srimad Bhagavatam and other literatures so that they're not lost like the Brahma Samhita, much of it was, and maybe many other literatures and scriptures that I'm unaware of because they were lost to history.
Sadhu. Agree. In fact, we're finding in distributing Srimad Bhagavatam, the other day Malini was telling the story about how there was a husband and wife, and the wife was very interested, but the husband kept saying, no, we can't take it. He said he was an atheist. And then Malini mentioned that we're doing this for preservation. He said, preservation, that I can do. Prabhu?
The last concluding purports of the last chapter we read were so clear and emphatic. Prabhupada was just making it without any compromise that Vaishnava philosophy, this is it, and everything else just a waste of time and energy. And these are strong words. They, some people may feel offended. Well, why? You just present yourself as the greatest. Your truth is the only truth, but you have to be open and consider us. But the acharyas are very uncompromising. They use strong words because that other philosophy is nonsense. He's saying they go to worship in the temple and think that the deity is void. Ultimately, it's madness. So the acharyas are very strong, and they have been using these words. And even the independent scholars nowadays, when they study, I just remember there was one professor and wrote an article about one of the disciples of Madhya. They all brought different arguments. And then he found that specific argument was so brilliant that the article was called "A Death Blow a final dead blow to Advaita Vedanta. And he really analyzed this brilliant, genius argument, and was saying, these arguments are so strong that you cannot really come up with anything better to defend Advaita.
Case closed. Okay, Navina, I just want to make a comment about what you said, Mahendra Prabhu. People might think, oh, this is very audacious to claim that this is the specific path and there is no other. Or they might find relief, because with deconstructionism and no ultimate conclusion, people are exhausted. They're sick of the retreat of logic, keeps going back, people lie and then they lie about the lies and then it keeps going on and on. And when they find something very specific where somebody just authoritatively says, no, this is it, take it, like Prabhupada used to do when he did for the Yogī Bhajan. And he said, no, it's in your scripture, because Yogī Bhajan brought it up, that Govinda is there in scripture. Then take it. You take that. And he kept on and he wouldn't let him go. He said, no, you take that. It's Govinda, it's in your scripture. Take it. Why won't you take it? And I felt that kind of relief when I first read the Back to Godhead magazine, because every other book I had read up to that point was wishy-washy. And when finally somebody said, Lord Caitanya is God, and here's what he says, and just follow it, I said, all right. Well, finally something a pitch I can hit. Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. It's so beautiful how Lord Caitanya glorifies Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, that I could not find a better Vaishnava than you. I met Ramananda Roy, that was wonderful. What if he would have said it the other way around, But it's so adequate, it's so endearing, it's so personal, so considerate.
It's amazing. Lokaram.
Hare Krishna. I was wondering, it's the first time I thought of maybe there's a connection where Lord Caitanya comes back to Ramananda Roy and says, everything you've told me I have found evidence for, proof for in these two books. Because previously there was a point in the conversation where Ramananda Roy says, actually there's more I can tell you, but you won't find it in scripture. But then Lord Caitanya comes back to him and says, actually I found scripture. So I thought that was a nice connection.
Very nice connection. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I have a question related to Bhagavad Gita 9.4, where Krishna said that all beings are in me and I am not in them. When he said I am not in them, I thought it prevails in all the living beings as a Paramatma, right? So I'm just trying to get a little clarification on that.
Well, in this context, Prabhupada used the verse to explain the inconceivable potency of the Lord, that although he's everything, he still remains aloof. He has his own independent personality. The energy and the energetic are one, but they're different at the same time. And although Krishna is all-pervading, and all he's everywhere within everything, he still has his own independent personality beyond all of it. And that's what he says in the Gita as Yoga Aishvaram. That's his supreme mystic yogic opulence. So obviously he's within everything, within everyone. But this verse, like many other Upanishadic verses, make us pause and look very carefully. He walks and does not walk. He's far away, but he's very near as well. And it calls us to go beyond our normal way of thinking of a personality. So it's in a similar vein. We have outside people's party waiting.
Hare Krishna. I was just hoping to make a reflection when I heard how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had the Krishna Karnamrita copied. I was reminded that when we used to go for pilgrimage in Jagannath Puri, to see the Jagannath temple, even just from the outside, across from the temple upstairs, there was a library. We would go and visit this
Keep
library.
the microphone as close to your mouth as possible.
We would go into the library across from the temple in Jagannath Puri, and there you could see palm leaf manuscripts, and you could see the iron pen with which the words were carved into the palm leaves. So it's quite a physical endeavor. It's not that Caitanya Mahaprabhu found the Krishna Karamrita and went down to the photocopy shop. Actually somebody had to take this iron pen and carve the letters bit by bit into the palm leaves. And that also goes in glorification of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, because he was old. He was an invalid, and still he had to hold these big iron pens, and he carved the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita into palm leaves. So we're so fortunate, and of course now there's mass printing and mass distribution, but what saddens me is, in my encounters, especially in the younger generation, people don't read the books. So sometimes we just have to be a bit gracious and grateful and understand the effort that has been made and how extremely fortunate we are to have access to this knowledge.
Thank you very much for the reminder. And Mukharaven for the close, unless there's some online things.
Maharaj, I have one comment and one question. So one thing I found very practical, when 331, when Ramanand Rai says that the king has already given me an order to return to Jagannath Puri and I am making arrangement to do this. Though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered him that, okay, you come with me, but he has to do some practical things, and in our life when we go through, we always find something that is not maybe practical at that time, and we have to address this rather than fanatically leaving that and trying to do something else. So I found that solace there, that though he had an opportunity to go, and who doesn't want to go with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he stayed there to finish his duty. And the other thing I had in 358 purport, where Bhaktivedanta Sai Thakur says that, okay, the place was not the Siali Bhairavi, and that he brings up that context. I was just seeing that sometimes the people are so much against about this book changing and other things, but here I see that Acharya stands for if there might be some thing that changes during the translation, as Mataji was saying, that copying from one thing to other, but then when they find that what is the truth, they reveal this. They don't sigh to say, and I find that even when we are changing the books, and if it is in the right mood and right, they know what they are doing, the person, those who are authorized, it's the right thing to do. I was just making, I don't know, it's the correct thing to think or...
Thank you, Mukharaven, for two excellent points. And now, yes.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Nitya Tarangani Mataji is not here physically present, but she has sent me an online report. We have 20 devotees watching online.
Hari Hari.
We have one comment from Shamya Pras Prabhu.
Samya Prash.
Thank you for sharing Mahaprabhu's magical pastimes. It's wonderful to hear of his ecstasies in various dhamas. Obeisances, missing you all and wishing I were there with you.
We got a chair here for you. We're saving it. It says reserved for Samya Prash.
That's all, Guru Maharaj.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Gaurnitai, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram, Shri Shri Radhe Shyam. If you so desire, please imprint the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveling throughout South India and his relationship with all the devotees there in our hearts. And let me remember, please always remind us of the charm and beauty of the Lord's personality and His relationship with His devotees. May we always go on pilgrimage in our minds with the Supreme Lord after hearing this. May we always reside in the realm of wherever Caitanya Mahaprabhu is situated. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Gaur Premanande. Nitai Gaura Haribo. 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Nitai Gaura Haribo. 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Vanchakalpadrishcha kripa sindave vichapatitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Prasadam. And we'll be back here, what time? 10:29. Hare Krishna.